As a job seeker, imagine this scenario. You get about 10 to 15 interview calls every week. Now, of this interview calls that you got, how many can you afford to miss because either you're not prepared or you're making some mistakes and you lose out of the offer letter? I'm sure you would say out of 15, you're okay to let go at least 8 or maybe 5, etc. Now, scenario number 2, you get about an average of 1 to 2 interview calls every week. And how many can you afford to miss out? I'm sure the answer is 0. Because, yes, the second scenario is also the reality for most job seekers today. They're hardly getting interview calls. And in spite of the situation, most candidates still get rejected because of the common mistakes that they do in the interview room. And that's what I want to talk about in today's episode. Now, the first thing I want to clarify is I'm not here to talk about common mistakes like not reaching the venue on time, not dressed for the occasion, etc. I'm sure you'll find this answer elsewhere. What I want to talk about are the 4 specific mistakes, and I call them blunder. And irrespective of the industry that you work for, whether you are a fresher who's just looking out for a job or a working professional who's worked multiple jobs and is preparing for his next interview or her next interview, the rules still remain the same. These blunders is something that you need to correct ASAP if you're doing this in the interview room. And if you're preparing for your first job, then these are a few things you need to remember before appearing for any interview. So let's start with the first one, and that's relying too much on generic answers through Google search. I think most of the HRs also have this mentioned as the common reason for rejection, where they find that the candidates were giving too much of answers from Google. And yes, it's very easy to find out if the answers you're giving are personal or is it coming from some website. Now think of this. Each interview is unique to the role and to the CV, which is of course in this case you. So how can a generic answer from Google help you get the job offer, right? As a candidate, you need to understand that every interview discussion is personalized, and hence the answer that you're giving also needs to be personalized for the discussion. Whether it is your strength, your weakness, where do you see yourself 5 years down the line, why should we hire you? These are answers that you need to search within. Yes, you can look at Google, you can use references from those sites, but copy paste is never going to work, right? So that's the first blunder that you need to avoid. Don't rely on generic answers. Now, the second one is also on the same lines. Candidates fail to prepare questions based on the job descriptions, based on the role and specific to the company, right? Now, what happens is the organization will send you a job description, the candidates go through it, and the next day they prepare for other areas, but they've forgotten to look at the job description. You don't want to make that blunder, right? The reason why the job description is given is because this is what they're hiring for. And when you're looking at the job description, it has given you all the cues that you need to prepare on. So, as a candidate, look at the job description, separate or write down the keywords, the core competencies, and what is expected in that role. Look at your experience, your projects, your skill sets, your core competencies, and try to match that, specific to that role. And this is how you will also personalize the answers towards the question that are coming up, making the recruitment manager's job much easier to shortlist you. The third blunder, not doing research on the current trends, on your industry, on what's new, and the new skill sets that are in demand, right? So while a lot of candidates end up researching about the company, which is a good thing, you need to do that, but also take the time to research what's happening in your particular industry. What's the trending thing? What are the few things that have either been replaced, or what is come new? This will only help you prepare your answers in a much better way. For example, when a question like, where do you see yourself 5 years down the line? What do you know about the company? These are the areas where you can use this knowledge of yours on what's trending, what are the new things coming up, and you can relate it back to either the skill sets or what the organization is doing, and giving you an opportunity to showcase your preparedness on the latest trends, giving you that edge in the interview room. Last but not the least, the entire interview is a discussion about finding the right candidate for the role. And one blunder that most candidates make is towards the end, where they end up, saying, I don't have any questions. So we recently did a video on questions that you need to ask the interviewer before you leave the room. So when an interviewer is asking you, do you have any questions for us? Candidates end up either saying, no, I don't have any questions, or they end up asking irrelevant questions like, when can I join? Or, any feedback for me, right? So these are the areas that you need to avoid. The last question can be a golden opportunity for you to turn the table around. So if in the entire discussion you've not been able to create the right kind of impression, this is your opportunity to do that. You can ask relevant questions around your job profile, around your learning and development, around the organization's growth story. I would recommend you to please go back to the previous video and have a look at this video on how you should position your questions for you to be able to create the right kind of impression. So that's about it, guys. If you avoid these 4 blunders, you still stand a higher chance of leaving the interview room with a good impression, a favorable impression that can lead to your offer letter. So thank you so much for watching. If you find this content relevant, please like this video, share this with your friends or your colleagues who are preparing for their interviews, or with someone who's constantly getting rejected in interview discussions. We would be sharing out more videos on this, so please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned before you go for your next interview. Thank you so much for watching once again, and wish you all the best in your career ahead. Thank you, guys.